Hey guys, this is Jason. I'm starting a new movie review series, this time focusing on Spider-Man. Because with Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out this year, I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to review every single Spider-Man film that came out before this one. Plus, we're also getting Spider Noir this month, so that should be fun when it comes out. And we are going to be starting this series with the first Spider-Man film from 2002, directed by Sam Raimi. In this film, a teenager named Peter Parker, played by Tobey Maguire, gets bitten by a spider that gives him powers to crawl on walls and web swing, making him a superhero called Spider-Man, where he saves people around New York City, but then learns about a new villain that comes around named the Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, who threatens to kill both him and everyone else that Spider-Man cares about, so Spider-Man is the only one that has to stop him. Now, before I start talking about this film, I want to mention a couple of things. One, I'm not going to mention every film that has Spider-Man in it. I'm only going to be focusing on the ones that are about the Peter Parker Spider-Man, and they're going to be focused on him. So you're not going to see me review films like Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, or Endgame, despite the fact that Spider-Man is in all three of those films. And two, I'm not going to review any of the Spider-Man spin-off films, even though I've already reviewed movies like Madam Web and Morbius. But you're not going to see me review the Venom trilogy or Kraven the Hunter. I would review those films one day, but for this series, I'm only going to focus on the Spider-Man films that are about Peter Parker, because that's what Spider-Man Brand New Day is. It's only about Peter Parker's Spider-Man. I remember this movie coming out in 2002, not being aware of Spider-Man yet. I was seeing trailers for it and I didn't understand what it was. Until later on when I watched the film at home, I did not see it in theaters because I was very young back then. I didn't know what a movie theater was until a year later. It was like around kindergarten time for me when this movie came out. And when I watched it as a kid, it blew me away. I watched that movie so many times growing up. I remember getting the DVD of it from Hollywood Video at the time. It was one of those films where you were allowed to buy films from Hollywood Video instead of renting them. And then later on, I would look at more Spider-Man related stuff. Like later on, I learned about the 90s animated series as a kid. I remember watching that a lot from the DVDs they made back then. And then of course later watching the entire series. And for me, that's one of the best takes on Spider-Man. And then later watch some of the other animated shows like the 60s animated series with that famous theme song, the 80s animated series where he teams up with Iceman and Firestar, as well as a CG animated Spider-Man series that's supposed to be sort of a tie-in to the first Spider-Man film, but it's not really tied into that film. And then watched a very weird version of Spider-Man called Spider-Man Unlimited, where he's on a different planet. And then after the Raimi trilogy ended, we got Spectacular Spider-Man, which for me is another great animated Spider-Man series, and learn that there was a 70s live action Spider-Man series. And nowadays, after all of that, we of course have Spider-Man in the MCU, the Spider-Man games from Insomniac, and the animated Spider-Verse films as well, and the spin-offs that we don't talk about. I collected a lot of the toys growing up, I played a lot of the video games, and then later got the comic books. So as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. I've loved him since I was a kid. Now, I'm not going to talk about this movie and be biased about it and love everything about it, because I am going to talk about this film as a critic, see what holds up about the film and see what doesn't. And rewatching this movie, I can say, even though it does have some issues, but yeah, this movie is still awesome. Not only is it one of the best comic book origin stories of all time, but it's one of the best comic book movies ever, because from the beginning of the film you learn that Peter Parker is just an awkward kid that's trying to ask a girl out, but he doesn't think it might work out for him because he's known this girl named Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst, who he's known since childhood but never got a chance to ask her out. And even after he gets his powers and becomes Spider-Man, he still has those issues that he needs to work on, but he still feels comfortable talking with her more, and it's supposed to be like a slow build up to their romance. And throughout the film you do see that Peter does have some normal everyday problems that he unfortunately has to deal with, like a bunch of bullies in his school, but he also realized that he's a superhero that has to take risks and not have everyone else in his life try to get involved in what he's doing, so he would have to make some tough choices in his life just so that no one that he cares about gets hurt. And what I also think makes this film work is how it uses its tone, where it's a mix of both the campy tone from the comics from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and a more grounded tone tone, which you would think would feel out of place and messy. But with this film, it works, and it's all done with Sam Raimi's direction. Because Sam Raimi is one of those directors that can take something campy and make it grounded. Because when you look at his Evil Dead films, those are very campy. But he has a good way to make them feel somewhat grounded, even though some of them are very slapstick comedies. And also with Darkman, which was the first superhero film before he did Spider-Man. And Sam Raimi is also a comic book fan, so when you watch this film, you can see his passion for comic books on screen. And this is the type of tone that just wouldn't work in today's time. It just wouldn't if you try doing it with a new film that was released in 2026. Because when you would release a movie with this type of tone and try to have it mixed together, people would look at that and say it's very messy and it just doesn't work for them, when they wouldn't realize what that movie was going for if it's directed by Sam Raimi. But when this film came out in 2002, it worked in that time, and I still think it works today. It makes the film feel more iconic. This movie also has a way to make its characters feel more grounded and down to earth, in particular Mary Jane Watson, who in the comics is supposed to be like the fun type of girl that loves fashion and acting, where here she still likes to do that, but unfortunately is getting abused by her father, so she likes to keep her emotions inside her, and uses the fun girl attitude as a mask to hide how she truly feels about her life. And I know Mary Jane Watson gets a lot of hate in this film because she's a damsel in distress, just like she is in the comics as well. While that is an issue for her in this film, but I still feel bad for her in this film when she's dealing with those problems with her father. And another thing I think makes this film work is the casting. Everyone in this film does a great job. Let's talk about Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, who I know gets a lot of hate over the years because he's not as charismatic or as quippy as Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland. While I do understand why they would see that as an issue, I personally don't agree because it never really bothered me. Could that be because this was my first time seeing Spider-Man? Maybe, but story-wise, I do think it actually works for this film, because this is supposed to be like a grounded take on Peter Parker, where he's still trying to experience his powers and try to learn them more, while trying to be a hero and still take things a little seriously, but also make a couple of quips along the way. And this Spider-Man does have some of those, but gratefully he doesn't have a whole lot, because if all you're giving him is just a lot of quips and jokes, then you're gonna make him come off as a jerk throughout the entire film and make him very annoying. So they decided to make the quips spread out throughout this film and the whole trilogy. And for me, I think Tobey Maguire does a really good job at showing the awkward side of Peter Parker while also showing the charismatic side of Peter Parker when he's Spider-Man, where he also helps make the character feel like we should be in his shoes if we get powers like he does. Like the way he reacts throughout the film when he sees him trying to climb up walls or trying to learn how to use his webs, which those moments are very fun, by the way. When you're seeing them trying to learn how to web swing, those create some really fun moments where they build up a lot of fun and attention as well. And to be honest, Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man. I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I love Tom Holland's as well, but for me, Tobey Maguire, for me, still feels like the best Peter Parker, where he feels like the character from the original comics, while also making this Spider-Man feel like his own as well. I know some of you would beg to differ, because some would say that he's the worst Spider-Man, and I do get those issues, but I don't agree with them personally. And this movie also does a good job making you feel bad for Peter when he's dealing with a serious problem, because spoilers if you haven't seen this movie, even though this movie came out in 2002, so this movie is really old, and we've seen the movie a whole lot. We already know what happens in every scene in it. So we get a scene where Peter is arguing with his Uncle Ben, where Uncle Ben gives him the "with great power comes great responsibility" line. That ends up annoying Peter, and he doesn't want Uncle Ben to tell him all this when he's about to go inside a ring with Randy Savage. But then after that fight happens and he gets ripped off by the guy that was supposed to give him money, a criminal breaks in and steals the guy's money, and Peter lets him go. And unfortunately, Peter later on regrets it because that criminal ends up killing Uncle Ben. And that makes Peter feel like he's responsible for what happened with Uncle Ben, which gets him to realize with great power comes great responsibility, making him realize that he has to use his powers for good. Everyone else in the acting does a great job as well, like Kirsten Dunst is good as Mary Jane Watson, James Franco is good as Harry Osborn, Peter Parker's best friend. Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris are both great as Uncle Ben and Aunt May. It's fun seeing Bruce Campbell in this film in his first cameo in the Spider-Man trilogy. But honestly, for me, the standouts in this film, one of them being Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin. He is intimidating when the Goblin takes over his mind, and every scene he's in, he is terrifying. And you can tell Willem Dafoe is having a fun time as the character, making the Green Goblin one of the best Marvel villains of all time, and one of the best Spider-Man villains of all time as well. Another standout for me is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Every line he has in this film is gold, where even though he thinks that Spider-Man is a menace only because he's wearing a mask, he still has a lot of lines that are fast and ridiculous, but with J.K. Simmons' performances, he helps make them a lot of fun, and I can't imagine anyone else playing the character besides him. Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man page 1 with a decent newspaper this time. Move Conway to page 8, or make it page 5. I'll be making it page 10. Get out of here. And those are the best performances for comic book characters, when you have actors that would play these characters and you can't imagine anyone else playing them. Now let's talk about the action sequences. Now granted, there are some parts of the action that are a little dated, like the CGI for whenever the Green Goblin's flying around, or when both him and Spider-Man are fighting each other in midair, like in the bridge in the final battle. But what does hold up about the action sequences is that most of them are practical. They're using real stunt doubles for all of these action sequences, and they look real and grounded. And some of those action sequences can be pretty intense as well, like the first fight between Spider-Man and the Goblin in the Times Square scene, or the scene where they're fighting each other inside a burning building, or fighting each other in the finale when they're inside this abandoned building. Like, that's the type of practical action that you don't really see in the newer live-action Spider-Man films, unfortunately. But another great thing I gotta say about the stunts in the action sequences is that Willem Dafoe did a lot of stunts as the Green Goblin himself to show his dedication, where he actually did 90% of his own stunt work. So that type of stuff is great, where yeah, the CGI and green screen is noticeable in the 5%, but the 95% of the action is just practical effects and real stunt work. Now, if you've done a review of this film without even once mentioning Danny Elfman's score, then you have failed, because his score in this film is phenomenal. There are so many moments in the score that I still love listening to, like of course the main theme that would play in the opening credits, and Elfman would of course like build some certain themes that would help build some of the tension, like the Goblin theme when he's about to do something terrible to Spider-Man or Mary Jane, or some more somber music with the romance scenes between Spider-Man and Mary Jane, or just some of the fun moments when Spider-Man is just swinging around New York City. And for me, Danny Elfman's score is still the best Spider-Man score we have gotten. I have liked some of the other ones like James Horner, rest in peace, Hans Zimmer's good as well, and Michael Giacchino's score for Spider-Man as well, but Elfman's score still flawless. And every time I think about a Spider-Man score, Danny Elfman's score always comes to mind. Now, like I said before, this movie does have a few issues. Like one, I've already mentioned the CGI a few times, but I also gotta mention this movie making Mary Jane a damsel in distress, which is also something they wouldn't do in today's time. They would just have Mary Jane be like a type of person that would defend herself and not get herself kidnapped by any villain. I mean, that's kind of what most comic book movies would do nowadays, like have the main love interest defend herself. Spider-Man from 2002 has aged very well for me. Yeah, the idea of having MJ being a damsel doesn't really work in today's time, and some of the visual effects don't hold up anymore, but it has great acting, a great origin story, really good practical effects and stunt work, a great villain, and an iconic score that all make this film, dare I say, amazing. I'm gonna give Spider-Man an A-. So guys, those are my thoughts on this Spider-Man film. Stay tuned soon, because I am going to be doing Spider-Man 2 in the future. So guys, if you have seen Spider-Man from 2002, what do you think about it? Do you think it still holds up to this day, or do you think this aged poorly? Let me know in the comments below. Also, who is your favorite Spider-Man? Let me know that in the comments below as well. And as always, if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.